call this meeting to order with a gavel and all. Welcome to meeting 109 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. Pursuant to Standing Order 1083C, to the motion adopted by the committee on Monday, October 17, 2022, the committee is meeting to consider matters related to the ArriveCAN application. As always, a reminder not to have your headphones next to the microphones as it causes feedback and potential injury to our very valued interpreters. Just quickly before we start, like yesterday, Mr. Anthony's lawyer, Mr. Brent Timmons, will be present with his client, but he is not a witness and thus he may not address the committee. The council may be on Zoom call with the witness and they may speak directly to their clients, but not to the committee or committee members. I would note for committee members that they should only question the witness and not speak to or ask questions of the lawyer who is not appearing as a witness.
Committee. I would say it didn't go very well. Is your testimony today that you and he didn't discuss the information that he said he was going to provide back to the committee?
We discuss files and contracts generally, but not specifics.
Are the endorsements on your website fake, like the resumes that were provided in order to win government contracts?
I have no idea.
It seems, sir, that this is just part of the scam that's being perpetrated by your company on the government of Canada and Canadian taxpayers. We'll have more questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Sousa, please go ahead for 6 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Anthony, have you been approached by any members of this committee before all of this, or any other committee within any elected officials? Has everybody approached you or Christian Firth separately outside of committee?
No, they have not.
And in your discussions and deliberations since this investigation has been ongoing, have you had discussions with the Auditor General?
No, I have not.
Have you had discussions with the Ombudsman?
No, I have not.
Have you had any discussions with the ministers or members of cabinet on this matter?
Not at all.
In your deliberations and in your processes over the years, you've been how long have you been part of GC Strategies?
I've been there since 2015 when we started the company.
Were you a partner in previous companies and operations with this procurement process?
I worked for previous companies, but I was not partners in those companies.
Who did you work for prior to GC Strategies?
I worked for Veritac and a company called I4C Consulting.
So you worked with Christian Firth at Veritac?
That's where I met him, yes. Yeah.
And then you both together became partners and purchased Cordell?
Yes, I left Veritac around 2010, went to a different company, and then we met up again in 2015.
So you have an equity stake in GC Strategies?
Absolutely.
So you're a principal, just you and Christian Firth is GC Strategies?
That's correct.
And yet you have not been involved in sourcing contracts. It's all been Christian Firth, or have you been engaged in sourcing opportunities?
I'm engaged in sourcing opportunities. I work in the private sector and different federal government accounts. We don't work in the same accounts.
So you have separate accounts than Christian Firth?
Yes.
Are you saying that when the contracts were established for ArriveCAN and so forth, you weren't part of those discussions?
I was not part of those discussions.
But you are the chief security officer, so it is part of your responsibility to vet the subcontractors, as I understand. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. So any resource that worked under those contracts, I would have processed their security clearances.
So in order for them to be eligible to work on these contracts, they had to go through you?
Correct.
So did you have contact with individuals in government in regards to these contracts?
No.
In terms of your security clearance?
No, I just had contacts with the resources.
So who are the resources in government that you would have had contact with?
Oh, I didn't have contacts within the government for their resources. When I say resources, I mean our contractors.
So you have a contract. Christian Firth is source a contract in government, and a substantive one at that. And your involvement was, hey, we just make sure that subcontractors are eligible. Is that what you're saying?
That's
And
exactly what I'm saying.
And you had no engagement with civil service at all?
Not with those contracts, no.
Well, but you do have contacts and relationships with other civil servants in other contracts?
Yes, I have contracts that are not related to this study. This
Do you have ongoing contracts right now?
no, we have no contracts whatsoever.
And what was the last contract you had with the government of Canada that you can recall?
Well, they were all suspended on, I believe it was February the 14th. That was the last contract we had. We let everybody that we had, that we let them know that they were no longer able to work under those contracts.
And how many people were employed or contracted through this process that you worked with? How many contractors, subcontractors did you deal with?
Since 2015, around over 200.
So you had 200 individuals that were contracted on your behalf to do work for the government of Canada through the procurement process.
No, some of those 200 people were in the private sector.
Well, they're all subcontractors. So they're all private sector, right? So you are the contractor. So you've done a deal, and now you've sourced that opportunity out to a number of other skill sets to do the work. And you had about 200 of them involved at any given time?
Yes.
There's a dispute in terms of the amount. The previous question just came to you about the $19 million that was put forward by the Auditor General as being sourced by GC Strategies. And Christian Firth has said it's only 11.1 or 11.2 million. Can you verify that?
They were his contracts, so he would be reporting on those.
Thanks, Mr. Sousa. Right at 6 minutes. Mrs. Vignola, please go ahead.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Anthony, thank you for being here with us today. It's definitely not easy. We, of course, have many questions, and I'm seeking clarifications to understand how the process works in general. And the objective is to improve the process so that we don't find ourselves in situations like this one.
Thank you. Mr. Anthony, your hand is up online. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I just missed the first little bit. Yeah, my translation wasn't working.
Are you okay if we just...
I missed the first.
Are you okay if we just restart? Thanks. We'll restart the clock. Thanks, Mrs. Vignola.
Donc, monsieur...
Mr. Anthony, I thank you for being here with us today. It's not easy to come and answer all these questions. I am trying to better understand the process so that we can improve it and make sure that the taxes of Canadians are well used and spent. You told us a bit about your role within GC Strategies. You are responsible for security, and you have no ties with the contracts. With the members of government. You have no ties with members of government and public servants, and you receive 50% of the income. Did I understand you well?
I have no relationships with as per my testimony with the departments that I mentioned, but I do have
C'est ce que je disais également, que vous n'aviez pas de relation.
That is also what I was saying, that you don't have any relationships, but do you receive 50% of the revenue?
Yes, at GC Strategies, we share in profits.
D'accord, merci.
Thank you. It must be disturbing to be here in the committee with us because, well, stop me if I'm mistaken, you are realizing a dream to move from an income earner to that of one who owns a company. And that's commendable because when you own a company, you can receive huge sums of money, and that is nice. Do you own any other companies than GC Strategies? Maybe other companies with numbers?
Yes, I do have a numbered company.
Est-ce que ces compagnies à numéros-là font également affaire avec le gouvernement?
Do these numbered companies also do business with the government of Canada, or do they deal with other entities completely?
Other entities completely.
OK. Je vais vous poser la même question que j'ai posée à Monsieur.
I'll put the same question I put to Mr. Firth yesterday. We learned that an accounting firm has interest in tax havens. Do your company also have any interest in tax havens?
No.
Excellent.
No. Excellent. Thank you. I would like to come back to the purchase of Corridor. I believe that's the starting point for the achievement of your big dream, the dream you had to own your own company. At the time, together with Mr. Firth and Mr. White, at the time you bought Corridor, how many employees were working at that company?
They had no employees at that company.
Et avant de la racheter, est-ce que
And before you bought over the company, did you have any interest in that company? Had you worked with the company before?
I worked with the company. The owner of the company was actually a consultant of mine when I was at I4C Consulting.
OK. Pourquoi est-ce que vous
Why did you buy Corridor?
quel était l'avantage?
What was the advantage for you to purchase Corridor? They have no patent, no intellectual property, and you're saying that they had no employees. Was the advantage that Corridor had security clearance, and by purchasing Corridor and by setting up GC Strategies, the security clearance will be transferred over?
Yes. And we would get to the corporate history of the company as well.
OK. Donc, en achetant Corridor,
by buying Corridor and setting up GC Strategies, you were aware that there will be interesting opportunities with the government of Canada. Now, talking about information technology, considering that there had been significant cutbacks for public servants working in this domain in previous years, when were you aware that there was going to be a window of opportunity in information technology? Could you tell us when you realized that it was going to be quite profitable to buy Corridor and then set up your own company?
I guess I could say I realized it when I got into the business in 2005.
merci.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Please, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.